What's going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy.
And Paul.
And we're here talking about Paul's Corona, the False God deck tech.
Also just known as Gods. So it's between this and Morphos. I kind of go back and forth because, both have their advantages and disadvantages. Everybody gets to play Corona. She's not technically a god either, so, doesn't quite fit the theme of Morphos being all types is actually a god.
What is the theme?
The theme is God Tribal. So there are two tweaks from this deck list we're going to see once I get the cards. There's going to be a World Tree, which is just going to replace one of a land. Don't know which one yet. And then I want to get, I think it's Iris, which is the new green god that flips and is other legendary creatures, I believe it says, also tap for mana.
Seems good. So, yeah, pretty much just God Tribal. Think of all the gods that you have, and they're probably in here. Mm-hmm. So, let's top in talking about the mana beast, which is interesting, to say the least. So, not interesting as in bad. So, you have 5 shocklands. Is there a particular reason why there's these 5 shocklands?
Those were the first 5 shocklands I grabbed, or those were the 5 shocklands we had at the time?
Got it. And then there are 5 fetch lands.
Those are the only 5 extra fetches we had.
Yes, we do not have any of those, which all of these are all, what is this, enemy? Ally? These are the ally ones, and then we, funnily enough, just have an extra Scalding Tarn, because, who doesn't just have, an extra Scalding Tarn laying around?
Yeah.
Then you have some of these Tri-lands, which these are the new ones from Ikoria.
Yeah, I need to get the 5th one for this.
You do. These cards are great.
Yeah.
They have the type on them, which makes them really strong. And then you have some of the other... and also, if I didn't say it, you have the deck will be listed in the down bar below. These are the
old Tri-lands.
Older Tri-lands, which are great. You do not have the full play set.
No, but
yeah.
Those are getting phased out for the other ones.
And then you'll do something else with the rest of the fetches and shocks will be... That's pretty much what will happen to the mana base. And then you do have, in fact, which this is very on brand, I feel like you have all 10 of the temple lands.
I'm missing a couple of the extended art ones,
but
I will fix that at some point.
These are great, and they're very on flavor with the rest of the deck. And then you kind of have some miscellaneous lands. The first is Cavern of Souls, because why not? Command Tower,
because 5 color you have to.
This card's great. Hall of Heliod's Generosity.
You somehow managed to put one of my gods in your graveyard. I can get it back.
Reflecting Pool.
Yeah, just basically another command tower.
These cards are really similar, so basically the same thing. I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, one of these will probably drop for the World Tree.
Yeah, that's fair. Ruptured Spire and Transcoat Promenade, and the last is Thespian Stage. Yeah. Cool.
Pretty simple.
Simple mana base. We don't really like to spend that long talking about the mana base because, let's be honest, it's not really the good stuff. So first off, Planeswalker. You have one, which is Nicol Bolas, Dragon God.
He's a dragon god. I mean, it's a god themed, right? Technically. It fits.
He's really good. His mana to cast him is so interesting, that triple black and then that 1 blue and 1 red. It's so funny, but yeah,
that ult, if somehow that ever managed to get off, but I get to use all other abilities of all other planeswalkers, so that's not that bad.
Yeah, seems good. Cool. Let's jump into the enchantments, and I guess we can kind of talk about these together, but you have 3 of the shrines.
I thought there were more than 3 shrines in there.
I'm sorry. You are correct. I don't know.
Those are the...
Okay. You know what? We're going to just... Hold up. We're going to rewind, and we're going to, talk about them 1v1. One at a time. So this is one of these shrines. This one is very good.
Yeah, this is just I get spirit tokens, and they're just kind of more defensive. This deck doesn't have a lot of traditional creatures, and so anything that can pump out more creatures is generally rather helpful.
I agree. I think tokens in this deck make a huge difference. Then you have the red shrine.
I just get to deal damage to something,
Creature or player.
Yeah.
And then you have the blue one.
Card draw. Everybody's favorite thing to do.
Absolutely. I actually think I was going to do these in alphabetical order, but I actually think we're just going to do all the shrines together because just for sake of ease.
This is more card draw.
Yeah. You do have to discard with this one, though. So
Yeah,
it's just
but
something to know. No, I'm not saying
and this is a May,
thing,
too.
but...
You know, I don't have to use that one at all.
That's fair. This one is so cool.
This is the, I can tutor for a shrine, and then if I have 5 or 6 or more, so 5 others and this one, it duplicates the shrines. There are, I think, 7 shrines in this deck.
Which
or maybe I think this is the 7th shrine normally.
This is very good. I remember when you played this against me 1v1, and it was incredibly good getting the chance to trigger things a second time. Then we have this green shrine.
Free mana, which is of any color too. So
which is great in this 5 color builds.
It is 5. It's X of 1 color. It's not free mana, but
no, totally fair, but still really good. And then we have Black Shrine. It's Black Shrine.
I gain life and my opponent loses life, so
Seems good.
Or all my opponents lose life.
Would it really be a Paul deck if he didn't run Marara's Wake?
I'm running 5 colors, and it doubles my mana pool. Who cares about the +1/+1? But 5 mana to double your mana pool seems pretty great.
Agreed. And your things get bigger. Privileged position. This card's awesome.
My already indestructible permanents are now also hexproof.
Yeah.
Seems pretty good.
Privileged position is truthfully great.
Sigil
of the Empty Throne.
I cast a lot of enchantment spells. Almost every single god is an enchantment. And as you've seen, there's already several other enchantments in the deck. So it's one of my token gens for the deck effectively, so I get a lot of 4/4s. And
which like we were saying earlier, the tokens are kind of needed in this. Sphere of Safety.
Yeah, it's a I need a wall for when I don't have creatures.
Yeah, it's like really good. You could just have like a couple, or even just when you have a ton. Sphere of Safety is just always incredibly good. Smothering Tide.
Mana fixing. And people like to draw cards, so lots of mana fixing.
Sterling Grove.
It's another my enchantments are hexproof, so
card's great and very pretty. Altar, and now we're moving into artifacts. Altar of the Pantheon.
All of my gods get +1 devotion. Any of the dual colors still only get +1. This is effectively a 1 hybrid that's all 5 colors symbols on it.
And you have you do gain life. And you get to tap for any color.
Yep.
Which is great. And very on flavor. Chromatic Lantern, of course.
Mana fixing. Everyone needs that.
Helm of the Gods.
Put this on an unblockable god or Corona, and that's going to be a lot of damage.
Nyx Lotus, last artifact.
Just add a lot of mana. Usually this is only going to be maybe 3 or 4. Sometimes it'll be up to 7. But that's not usually. Normally it's just 3 or 4 of a color just to get me a little bit extra mana.
This card is really good. Moving on into sorceries. First we have Bantu's Last Reckoning.
Early game board wipe. Where if I don't have... you're just only going to play turn 3 or 4 usually. If somebody else is getting out early. And my stuff is usually indestructible, so I don't really care.
Your board wipe, you don't care with your board wipes. Commune with the Gods. Come on. This is like very on brand.
You may put a creature or enchantment card from on them.
Creature enchantment.
Basically
everything. You just get whatever you want.
3/4 of the deck.
You just get whatever you want with this card. I'm going to talk about these cards together because they are
the same.
Basically the same, which is Day of Judgment and Wrath of... you had to put Wrath of God.
Wrath of God is... Wrath of God. I'm playing gods. My gods are wrathful sometimes.
Absolutely. Pretty standard, just destroying things, and basically everything in your deck is indestructible, so...
A good 3, maybe half the deck.
I would say even more than half the deck.
Well, lands.
Well, if we're just talking about creatures.
Yeah.
Demonic Tutor.
Tutor for a very necessary enchantment or specific god, usually. Or maybe a world tree when that gets added to the deck.
Oh yeah, just get anything you need.
Mm-hmm.
And the last sorcery is Hour of Revelation. Love. This is probably like my favorite board wipe. if I had to pick. Or Perilous Fall. And this is probably number 2. Card is great.
Yeah, just don't play Merciless Eviction into this. Or don't play against Merciless Eviction.
Merciless Eviction and Perilous Fall do ruin you.
Yeah.
But other than that, other board wipes don't really affect you.
The Perilous Vault isn't as bad because that's more universal. It hits everyone.
That's fair.
Whereas Merciless Eviction, you choose enchantments, and there goes my deck.
That's fair. Cool. Moving on to instance. The first thing we have is Crush Contraband, which I think I've gotten you on this card because it is very good.
Yeah, get rid of enemy problem enchantment or their own gods if they're being blasphemous and my gods are not on my side.
Or they take control of one of your gods. Cyclonic Rift.
You're playing Will You Need a Psych Rift?
Absolutely. Enlightened Tutor. 100%. 100% needed in this deck.
Yeah, that's tutor for an enchantment in an enchantment deck. Like, who cares about the artifact part?
For 1 mana, yeah. And then these cards are very similar. We have Swords to Polisher and Path to Exile.
Spot removal. Everybody needs spot removal. So.
Absolutely. Now for the best part, in my opinion, the creatures. First off, we're starting out with Aegis of the Gods.
I get hexproof. It's an enchantment creature.
And it's cheap.
The hexproof really isn't that relevant. I mean, it stops somebody from, targeting me and saying, hey, you mill your hand, or you have to sacrifice a creature.
But it's not like your creatures have hexproof, which is probably the more relevant, I would say, thing, yeah.
But it is more that it's an enchantment creature, and it kind of fits the theme of the deck.
This card is incredibly strong, and I do not think a lot of people know what this card does. Agent of Erebos.
Constellation is a wonderful, wonderful mechanic for this deck.
Absolutely.
So whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, I exile all cards from an opponent's graveyard.
So it's you pretty much shut down graveyard strategies with this card very seamlessly. This card is incredibly good, and I don't think a lot of people know about this card and run it. It's really good.
Well, most decks I don't think run enough enchantments to make it worth it.
But if you're building an enchantment deck and it has black in it, and I think that's also the kicker, is I think a lot of times enchantment decks typically might not have black in it. So, but if you are, this card is very, very good. This card makes me so happy that you run it, and that is Archon of Sun's Grace. I love this card. It's just so cute.
Pegai have lifelink. It makes Pegai. So I continue to make a lot of Pegai. I've won a couple games with this card in the few limited games that this is played against. But
yeah, it's cute. It's cute. Again, like having tokens is really great in this deck, and this is one of the cards.
Probably one of the only non-enchantment creatures in the entire deck.
Yep. And funny enough, this is another one, which is a Rogothian Enchantress, if I'm saying that correctly.
Rogothian is probably right.
This card is great.
You draw cards when you play enchantment, so
which is the entire deck. So.
Yeah, I get to draw a lot of cards.
So yeah. Cool. Okay, so now the good stuff. First off, we have Athreos, God of Passage. Oh, I love this card so much.
Yeah. If something were to die, one of the few non-enchantment creatures die, or you somehow make my gods non-indestructible and blow them up anyways, I potentially get them back, or you lose life, so,
Honestly, overall, Athreos is really one of my faves. I love it.
Well, we're on Athreos.
And another Athreos for ya. Shroudveiled.
Yeah, I get to put counters on creatures, and when they die, they come back. Or exiled, they just come back.
Yeah.
So if I can get this out early, that's really, really good.
This is, I'm not sure how to say this name. Caliph? Beloved of the Sea? Yeah.
Equal devotion to blue. Who really cares? It's not going to be that high.
No.
But, creature enchantments have spells cast cost 1 more to cast. So
it's a little bit of death and taxes in this. And like one thing I like about this deck is it does a lot of different types of things. Cat. Hello?
I mean, it makes a path cost 2, so it makes it slightly less beneficial. Like if you're planning on saving 1 mana for the path, don't have it. Or you can, throw out some of these mana plans.
If you can hear noises, Leia's in the bag. She's very happy. Courser of Crufix. Oh, love this card.
I get life when I play lands, and I can play lands from the top of my library, which can be quite useful.
Daxos. You guys know how I feel about that card. Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. You just gain life.
Yeah, and it can potentially be a rather large body, too.
Another draw card, which is Eidolon of Blossoms. This card's great.
And it's an enchantment, too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Getting to draw cards.
When it enters, it draws a card, and every time I play another creature, pretty much it draws a card, so...
Speaking of drawing cards, Afara! I love Afara.
This will typically only trigger once. I don't often get enchantments on creatures on other people's turns, which is slightly unfortunate, but...
So you're not maximizing Afara, but she still is quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Afara. Then we have Erebos, Bleak Hearted.
I can, if something dies, I can, pay 2 life. Who really cares? And then I get to draw a card.
You do have quite a bit of life gain in this deck.
Yeah,
some life gain.
I have some
so
life gain,
definitely
so
helps.
it's definitely not as painful as some other decks, but
absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely worth keeping.
And then we have the other. Can we just look at these side by side, because this is just very... I can totally see you getting these confused, because I think they look very, very similar. Okay, this is God of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Card's great.
Opponents can't gain life. And I can pay 2 mana and 2 life and draw a card, so, more card draw. Filter through those and find those other gods and such.
God Eternal Oketra.
Whenever I cast any creature spell, so not just my enchantment ones, I get a 4/4 black zombie. And when it dies, I can put it back into my library, third from the top, which is such a weird...
It is so weird. I feel like they were designing it and they're like, we need to give this card a little bit of an edge. We should do third from the top. That's it. What?
And it's got double strike, which means it, does 6 damage effectively, but that can make a lot of zombie tokens.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they're 4/4s. And they got vigilance, which is so good.
Yeah.
Heliod, God of the Sun.
My creatures have vigilance, and I can pump them if I have... sorry, that's not this Heliod.
They do have vigilance, and then you can create tokens.
Yes.
That's the
more
Heliod,
creatures,
which is great.
But these are enchantment creature tokens, so this is one of the few cards that lets me make enchantments on other people's turns.
Which is good. I feel like one thing that's really cool about this deck is you kind of always have something to do with your mana. You're always busy, you're always doing something. This is probably one of my favorite gods, and I feel like one of the lesser used gods, and I'm not really sure why, but Iroas?
Yeah, my creature's a menace, so you need 2 creatures to block all of my gods that are already indestructible, so you're already trading unfavorably, now you're really trading unfavorably, and my creatures don't take damage when they attack, so...
Yeah.
If you got a Death Touch blocker, I don't care, so the blocking becomes really disadvantageous if I have that out.
Oh my goodness. I love Karametra.
I get to tutor for forests, which is one of the reasons why Forester Plains. There's not a whole lot in the deck, unfortunately.
But I still think Karametra's worthwhile.
The Tri-lands and the Shock lands, and so if I can get all the Shocks, that's a couple more of them, and then if I can get the last Tri-land, I believe that one I'm missing is a Forester Plains, or maybe that's the one I...
Absolutely.
Don't have is the one that's the Forest Plains. I don't remember off the top of my head, though.
One of my faves, Keranos, God of Storms.
Yeah, I get to draw an extra card or lightning bolt someone.
There's nothing bad about this card. There's literally nothing bad at all about this card. Cat. Yeah, the camera shaking was definitely a cat. Okay. Clawfius? How do you say that?
Clythos?
God of Destiny. How do you say it?
Clythos?
You said it closer than I probably did. God of Destiny.
I can exile target card from a graveyard. If it's a land, I get mana, or I get gain 2 life and deal 2 damage. And that's to each opponent too, so that's neither is typically bad. Normally I'm going to eat cards out of other people's graveyards versus my own, but sometimes I'll eat a land if I need to gain a mana. Even
just exiling cards to shut down graveyards is really good.
Yeah, there's surprisingly a lot of graveyard hate in a god deck.
Then we have Krufix, God of Horizons.
No maximum hand size, really useful if I'm going to draw lots of cards. And I just tap out all my mana, and then it sits there in a pool.
The colorless, I would say, is probably not as good as you might think, just because it is 5 colors, so you are you're very
But
mana
most
conscious.
things only need one or two of a
That's
color.
very true.
And then
very
I need
true.
a lot of colorless, and
Yeah.
so it's the end right before my turn, tap it all, throw it into the pool, and that way I have a bunch, and then it cuts down my mana cost for the next turn, and then that typically just ends up getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of graveyard hates that we just mentioned earlier, we have Kunros, Hound of Athreos. Yeah, stopping things from... It does say players, so this does also...
Not that I cast anything from my graveyard.
Do you really not?
I don't think I do. Or maybe I have one card that says...
One card, yeah.
No, but they don't even cast from the graveyard. It pulls it back to my hand.
Oh,
They don't. I don't cast anything from my graveyard.
Well, then there you go. This is just a Death and Taxes card, basically, which is good. This is very similar to other type of effects, but just Meza Enchantress, just drawing cards.
Chapman draw card, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, one of my faves. I know I keep saying
Mugus.
Mugus.
Oh,
so good.
Yeah, opponents take damage or sack creatures, which helps me both. You're either lowering your life total or less threats to attack me with.
He's a slow burn, and I honestly think I think a lot of people don't give cards like this enough credit, where those slow burn cards, those can be incredibly detrimental.
I mean, this can end up doing 40 damage in a game. Just
if you get it out early and people don't deal with it, which is hard to deal with when they're indestructible.
I mean, and most people aren't going to sacrifice the creature; they'll take the 2 damage and just eats away slowly and slowly.
Absolutely. Nylea, God of the Hunt.
My gods have trample is basically what that says, and indestructible.
It does. It is what that says. Yes. And then this,
And then if I have extra mana, this is the one that pumps them.
Extra. Yeah. It is only target creature, but you know what? If you have nothing to do, which is decently rare in this instance, in this case, but
Or I have you blocked a bunch of them, and it's not favorable to give those ones creatures. I give the one thing you didn't block a bunch of extra damage, and
and another Nylea. We have Nylea Keen-Eyed. I really enjoy this card a lot. I think she's
one less to
good.
cast, which is super helpful.
Absolutely,
because it chips away. So now instead of needing 3 and colors, it's now 2 in colors, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you want to play 3 or 4 guys in a turn, it adds up real fast.
And then her other ability, where you can get a creature into your hand, which is just great because you have so many creatures in the deck.
And the gods will always count as creatures everywhere except for the battlefield, potentially.
Exactly.
Because of devotion. We probably should have mentioned that at the start of the deck.
Yeah, that's true. Oketra, I really love her. I think she's really good.
So this is another one of the cards that lets me create tokens on opponents' turns. Yep. It is really expensive to do it, but
it's one of those, like, let's just say you have 10 mana, you play a god for 6, you have that awkward 4 left over, you can kind of use that, and those tokens give vigilance, which is great. A lot of token gen in this deck, which I really enjoy. And speaking of, we have Farika, God of Affliction.
Yeah, this is if somebody puts something big and dumb in the graveyard, I get rid of it real fast.
You just have a lot of graveyard hate in this.
Yeah.
A lot of graveyard hate, yeah.
Which is real surprising. I don't, when I built this, that wasn't intended, and it's kind of what a lot of the gods like to do.
And then we have Phoenix, God of Deception. A little bit of mill action.
I put things in people's graveyards, and then I exile them all. So,
Yeah. Got that, like, you're milling because of the amount of exile things you have in this deck, basically.
And it's based on toughness, too. A lot of the gods have more toughness than power, and so if I have multiple gods that can mill a bunch of cards in one turn.
Absolutely. Perveros, God of the Forge. Oh, so good. So good.
This is really good later game versus early game, unless I got a bunch of the ones that are making tokens every time an enchantment enters or something like that.
But I like how it's each opponent.
Yeah.
So it's just that little bit of damage.
So this adds on to Mugus. And if I have the devotion, then when the gods enter, if they enter as a creature, then that's extra damage,
Which is really good.
Yeah.
Thassa, God of the Sea.
Scrying.
So
who doesn't
good.
like to scry?
And this ability, oh my gosh, for 2 mana, just making something unblockable. This should have been 3 mana to make something unblockable, I think. Honestly.
If not even 4. Or it should have been double blue.
Or something like that. You can kill people really quickly with this effect. Absolutely.
Yeah, and she can make herself unblockable if she happens to be a creature too.
Oh, the Locust God. So good.
I get to draw cards
man.
and make tokens
You
and
actually
deal
have
damage with them.
You have a decent amount of draw in this deck as well.
Yeah.
You have a solid amount of draw cards, so... And then when it dies, you just get it back. So good. Love it. The Scarab God.
So this synergizes with the
white one.
The white
Yeah, that makes tokens.
Oketra.
Yep.
Because that makes zombie tokens, so this is I get to scry.
I love it because first off, you
Lose
exile something from a graveyard. Then you create a token that's a copy of it. And then if it's like less power and toughness, it becomes a 4/4. The cat is falling off the chair. And then when it dies, you get it back.
Yeah.
Timuret? Chosen
Timuret?
from the dead?
More
More
life
exile.
and
You just hate graveyards, apparently. The stack is like a
that's just what
sub-theme.
it's not intentional. It's just what the gods do. The gods apparently don't like death.
That makes sense. And then Xenagos, God of Revels. Oh, so good.
Give something haste and make it real big.
Make it really big. You can definitely do a ton of damage with it.
Oh, yeah.
And what I really love is it's combat on each one of your turns, so you
Yep.
do it and you keep doing it, which is great.
And if somehow, magically, I get a second combat phase, now I can't do it to myself, but if somebody else were to magically get me a second combat phase, those stack.
Oh, that's really good. I did not know that, actually.
Yep.
I didn't know
Because
that.
it's a beginning of combat, so each combat phase gets another stack.
Well, y'all, that's pretty much it. It's a fun deck, really is. And I feel like
It's a little on the slower side.
It is on a little bit of the slower side, I think, and it also, one thing that I feel like you feel like is this deck doesn't really play the same way every time, which is cool.
Yeah, because it's very dependent on what gods you get, how it's going to
Absolutely.
play. If you get the more tokens on your gods first, it's a little bit faster. But sometimes you're just sitting there with 4 or 5 gods in the field, and they're not really doing anything because you don't have devotion for anything.
Which is, it can be a little bit, but I also think too this power level of it makes it really interesting because...
Hi, cat.
Hello, cat. Okay, sweetie pie. Come on. Okay, come on. No. Makes it really interesting. So, yeah. Any final closing remarks?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
Awesome. Well, I really hope you guys enjoy this video. Thanks, Paul, for hanging out with me. If you guys liked it, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I'll catch you in the next one.